Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Rachel. I know I have been gone for, I think it's been near a month since I did my last video, and I know I had a couple of you reach out to make sure I was okay. I kind of just ghosted YouTube for a while, and I just wanted to make this video to kind of update on a couple of things going on here. Oh, I'm using my phone camera today just so I could ease of uploading. This is going to be a very informal video. I am going to do a COVID review of what's been going on, and kind of just an update of where I've been. First off, I've been okay. It's just been a bit of a struggle this month of January. We're now into February, and so I just kind of wanted to go over that. So, gosh, this keeps going down. So sorry about that. My setup is a little bad here. So basically, we're going to talk about COVID. For those that are new to my channel, stumbled upon this, I am an ER physician, and I have been in the thick of COVID. COVID has been pretty bad here recently, and we're finally kind of over the second hump. So I'm just going to get a little nitty gritty details at the end of this video. I'm going to talk a little bit more about personal stuff, like where I've been, what's been going on, why I took a break for a month. So for those that care or want to hear about it. But basic facts. Let's get started about the COVID facts. So we are so high on the numbers now. I usually review like where we are with the numbers in the US and everywhere. We're in the millions at this point. We've had a very high number of deaths in the US. So we're not in a happy place when it comes to COVID. But there have been some happy things that have been going on with COVID recently. And I think that's what I want to more highlight on now. There's like this little glimmer of hope at the end of a really long, painful year that we've been dealing with COVID. So we are now about a year. We are a year into when COVID hit the US. For those that are in the US, at this point, it was I looked back at my timelines to kind of look through, and COVID was hitting. It was still one of those travel associated diseases. It was hitting places like Italy and other really hard, but in the US it was still not really widespread, and it wasn't a thing that we thought was necessarily going to blow up here. There was still the speculation that this was going to stay abroad and we can control it. Obviously we know better now. And so it's just yeah, a year later, it is everywhere. COVID is not going away. I don't know why this is not staying here, but yeah, COVID is not going away. We are stuck with COVID, and it's staying with us. I think it's going to become endemic. And for those that don't know what the term endemic means, it means it will always have some level of disease state in our population, I think worldwide. Now, how bad it will be and all that, really, we don't know. I think eventually it won't be a bad thing. And why I say this, because if you look at the natural history of any pandemic in our history, and this is a really interesting thing to look at, go back and look at the Spanish flu, go back and look at Black Death, go back and look at a lot of different pandemics that have happened throughout history of mankind. And somewhere around the 2 to 3 year mark is when pandemics really start to fizzle out. Either men get tired of it and they just say screw it, and then it burns through the society, or something happens with the virus or the bacteria where it becomes less infectious. I think in more modern history, pandemics like flu and stuff, we make up a new vaccine and then it becomes less virulent or less likely to tear through society because we have people that are immune to it. So a year into this, and we probably have another year of pain, but it won't, I'm hoping, be as bad as last year. And why I mean this is because we've come a long way in a year from what we knew when this happened a year ago. For one, we understand the transmission of this virus a lot better now. I looked back, we didn't know if it was droplet or respiratory back in the day. We had no idea. And what we know now is it's mainly droplet. And masks are actually pretty effective. I've had some people leave some very interesting comments on my YouTube and Facebook and other places I've posted this where they're like, no, masks are horrible. But the reality of the situation is we know that masks have decreased transmission. This is highly virulent, though. It is much more virulent than, let's say, the flu. We know this because we're not seeing any flu right now. I mean, even crappy mask compliance has pretty much made flu just not be a thing this year, which is fantastic. And I think from here on out, every flu season, I'm probably going to wear a mask at work because just that alone is amazing. But we know this virus is much more virulent, much easier spread. than the flu. And so masks have decreased it. Obviously, the quality of your mask is going to be very dependent. We know this now. The CDC has really kind of come out and talked about this a little bit more about the quality of your mask. You know, obviously, I wear an N95 at work. That's the highest quality mask, but it has to be fitted properly. But a good surgical mask is very helpful. And then the next is a multi-layer cloth masks. And so we know the quality of the mask makes a huge difference and the amount of social distancing. My setup here is just not happy with me today. Anyway, so we know that. So that's one thing we know. We understand that it's not spread by fomites, which is like objects that you touch. That's not likely going to cause a spread. So in the beginning, everyone was Lysoling everything down. You didn't know if you were going to get it from your groceries. We now know that this is not the case. We also know that actual good social distancing works. And what we've seen with the latest spike is that most of the spike of this is not from going to your grocery store, not from going out and doing your necessities of day in and day out. A lot of it's from social gatherings in households among family members. And we got this latest spike in November, December, January, really badly because of the holidays. And I mean, it was like clockwork. You could see when each holiday hit, it would ramp up a little bit. We are now in the beginning part of February, and at least here in San Antonio, we have really started to see a dramatic decline in people hospitalized with COVID. That is my indicator when I look at how we're doing. I don't look at overall positivity rate. I don't look at numbers of people who have tested positive. I look at the hospitalization rate and how many beds are taken up by COVID, and we are finally turning the corner in San Antonio. So January was a really rough month. We shot past our summer numbers where we had hit an all-time record. We were way past that. Our hospitals were full. I was practicing medicine out of a waiting room. It was exhausting and not a fun place to be. And we just kept waiting for when this bump was going to be over. And so we're now there, at least here. I think nationally we're probably going down. And then hopefully we won't have another bump at spring break. That's my next concern, is spring break, Easter, that kind of time. Next big thing that has come around with COVID and good things about it, good things that we have learned that have made this different than last year. We have a vaccine. We have multiple vaccines, different types of vaccines. And I have actually been fully vaccinated. My last video, I briefly touched on the fact at the end of that video that I had been fully vaccinated and I did have some side effects from the vaccine, known expected side effects from the second vaccine. And that, it was actually kind of a weird, reassuring thing, because when I got the chills and the body aches and the headache, I knew my immune system was doing the right thing, and I knew that that was working. And so it has been a huge relief for me when I have to go intubate, which means put a tube down and put someone on a ventilator. A person who has COVID, I'm less worried that that aerosolizing procedure that really spreads COVID in the air is going to infect me and then cause me to have COVID. That has been such a huge sigh of relief. The fact that now vulnerable populations like my parents are starting to be able to get the vaccine is really reassuring. And I am hoping that we keep full steam ahead on getting as many people vaccinated. And I am very open to when people ask me and they're concerned about the vaccine, is it safe to get? I really, really try to explain how these vaccines work to folks, because I think it's important people to know. Just a quick aside, we're going to go over the vaccines of what is out there, at least in the US. I know there's different variations depending on where you are. The two main ones in the US are the Pfizer and the Moderna ones. Those are the two that are currently approved, and the Johnson & Johnson one is in emergency approval right now, but it looks like they're not going to fully review it till mid-February. So right now you have two options of vaccine. Most of the time when you go to a place, you don't actually get a choice of the vaccine. It's whichever one is available. The Moderna and the Pfizer are both an mRNA type vaccine. The quick and easy, dirty way to explain this type of vaccine is in a technology that they've been developing since the mid-2000s, when the original SARS virus came out, like SARS back in the day from China and went to Canada and all those other places, and we had that little outbreak. that original SARS, not COVID. They started developing this type of vaccine, and basically this little mRNA piece causes your body to produce a remnant of the spike protein, not the actual virus, but the little protein on the outside of the virus. Your body sees this protein and is like, ooh, foreign, must attack it, must make antibodies from it. It's quite clever. And then that little mRNA piece goes away and the protein goes away, but you've created a very effective way for your body to know that there is something it needs to make a virus or antibody against. And so the profile of safety and the profile of effectiveness is pretty much the same for both Moderna and Pfizer, which is about 95 to 96% effective once you've gotten both vaccines. That's really, really good. That's better than your average vaccine. There are some known cases of anaphylaxis, although fairly rare, with the Pfizer vaccine, and there is known side effects that come more prevalent with the second vaccination. And those are things like body aches, chills, headache, arm soreness. These are not that you have gotten the virus. This is your immune system producing what we call cytokines. Those are those chemicals in your body that get it overreacting to a virus to kill it off, or a bacteria. These are good things. These mean that your immune system is ramping up. And albeit they are a little uncomfortable, most people only have them for less than 24-hour period. And they're pretty easily treated with Tylenol. And it is okay if you guys get the vaccine, if you start having symptoms, to take Tylenol or ibuprofen to relieve your symptoms. Definitely okay. Don't pre-medicate, but if you start getting bodies and chills and body aches, it's okay to take it for those that are getting it. The latest vaccine that's going to come out is the Johnson & Johnson one, and I think it'll probably get approved. It is not as good as the Moderna and Pfizer, but it is a more tried and true type of vaccine that you guys are used to. It is old technology. It's a live attenuated virus. And what is that? A live attenuated virus is basically where they take a virus that is not harmful and they attach something from the virus that you want to treat, or bacteria, on that virus, and your body attacks it and then makes antibodies against it. So that's what they've done with the Johnson & Johnson. I think I was reading and they said it was an adenovirus. The problem with live attenuated viruses in general is that they cannot be given to a certain subset of the population. Those are people that are immunocompromised. Sometimes small children can be a little iffy, or people that are around other folks that are immunocompromised. The reason is you are taking a live virus, albeit a safe virus, and you're giving it to people. You have to be careful if they don't have an immune system or they're around people that don't. That not deadly virus for you or I that would just make our body react and make antibodies could be very harmful to someone who does not have an immune system. Also, the profile on how effective the Johnson & Johnson is a lot less than a Moderna and Pfizer. I think it's in the 65 or 70 range, which is still fantastic. This might be a really good vaccine for that younger population, those 20-year-olds, those teenagers, those folks that don't really need that high level of protection, but probably need it. And they've shown with at least the Johnson & Johnson that the risk or likelihood that you're going to continue spreading asymptomatically the virus is pretty much nil. They don't have that information for Pfizer and Moderna. We just don't know. So that is a promising vaccine for those folks. And the nice thing about it is I believe it's just one shot, unlike two. The side effect profile is much better, and it is much easier to store. So it is going to be a vaccine that may be better for like third world countries or places that just don't have the resources. The Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines have to be kept at a very, very, very cold temperature to be effective. The Pfizer much more than a Moderna. For those that are interested, I got the Pfizer vaccine. That was the first one available. And I think I got my vaccine, the first one, within the first week that it was approved. So I was like one of the first guinea pigs. My parents got the Moderna ones. Everybody in our family is doing great. Nobody who has had the vaccine, and in my family alone, it's at least 4 of us, have had any major issues. I had some chills. So I am a big proponent of it. I think the vaccine will be life-changing. However, I don't think we will be fully vaccinated in the US until the end of this year. And even then, it depends on people's willingness to have a vaccine. I know a lot of people are hesitant, and I'm happy to answer questions about it because I know that people have questions and concerns and they don't want to be a guinea pig. And I think that if they ever have any questions, all of us who are in science and who are have taken it are more than willing to try to talk and let people understand the science behind it, so you're not afraid and understand why this is such a good thing. So anyway, that is a big development. I think I was reading an article that said that we're probably not going to be in a ability to travel worldwide open like we were pre-pandemic until 2023, because to get to that state, all the places all over the world have to be able to be vaccinated, and certain countries that are poor and don't have access to healthcare, it's going to take them probably till 2023. So that is something to keep in mind. Other things. So those are the good things about COVID. Other good thing is we are much better at treating it. I'm not seeing the death rates that I saw before, and I think a lot of that is we're not early intubating people. We understand permissive, what we call hypoxia. We are okay letting people ride at 90s on their O2 sats, and we understand how to treat it better. We have gone through a litany of drugs that worked and didn't work, and we know that there are some drugs that are better than others. Good old cheap steroids, Decadron, that is such a fantastic drug. It's cheap, it's old, we've had it forever. It has done wonders to change it, and we've finally figured out where to use it in this whole thing. We understand that using it in people who require oxygen has been incredibly helpful. Use it before that can be harmful. Hydroxychloroquine, evidence shows that is not helpful. Let's see, ivermectin, I don't have a lot to say on that one. I haven't really looked at the data, but I can tell you we're not using it much. The data's, I'll have to get into it more later. We are doing things called bamlanivin. I can never say it. BAM is how we call it. It's the monoclonal antibody. We're using those in folks that are within the first 10 days of their illness, meet certain criteria that the government has laid out for this emergency use of this drug, and you cannot need oxygen and things like that. That seems to be pretty promising, and I have prescribed that for several patients, and I think that that is another great tool that we have. So these are huge advances we've made in just a short period of time. That's really, really great. All right, let's move on to just a few other topics about COVID that are relative in the last 5 minutes. I'll just give you a little update about me. So school openings. I am still a big proponent of school openings, although there are risks and benefits to it. I think from a child care or child health, I think going to school is important. My daughter is in in-person school. Each school has to set out and do the appropriate like social distancing, mask wearing, and things like that. That being said, we had a scare. My daughter had COVID-like symptoms recently, and I had to get her tested. Luckily, she was negative. But, you know, we all have to, if we're sending our children back, be mindful when they are ill. A normal cold that I would have kept my kid home for and just sent him back, I might have to go get him tested. And that is something that you need to be cognizant of. My poor daughter was so upset she had to get tested, and I had to explain to her that it was for the safety of her classmates' families and for the teacher and for those folks, not because children get severely ill. There's only a very small subset of children that can get a disease state called MIS-C. It's this weird inflammatory post-infection period that children can get really ill, but it's a very small part of the population. Most kids have minor to no illness with COVID, and it rarely affects them. So on a whole, I think the risk and benefit, you have to weigh it. But for me, at least personally, I think it's worth it for my children to go to school. What other things shall we talk about? Travel we talked about. I don't think it's coming back to normal. The US has put back travel restrictions. A lot of countries have, where now they require you to get COVID testing before you go in. For me personally, I'm not leaving out of the US until I can either have my vaccination as a status where I don't have to get COVID testing, or that COVID testing requirement is lifted, because I personally don't want to get stuck abroad and be an asymptomatic carrier and not realize it. So that is something to be very mindful of. It is devastating for travel industry, but I don't think we're out of the woods on that anytime soon. So yeah, those are the big things. I can't remember if there was other things or technology but if you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them down below. a lot of we know there are two. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to talk about. There are two variants of COVID that are out that are new. This is probably the thing that scares people the most. We have a UK variant, which I'll be honest, I think is pretty widespread in the US already. I think we just hadn't realized it yet. We've already found it in multiple communities, and it is more virulent. There was some word on the street that it might be more deadly. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they have evidence, but someone in the UK had mentioned that. We don't know, but it is more virulent, which means that they are now recommending better masks. If you can get a higher quality surgical mask or a better fitting mask, or even I've heard double masking. And all those are a good thing. If you can always have a higher quality, better fitting mask, that's a better policy. Um, like I said, I think the UK variant is already here. There's also a South African variant that is here that we don't know as much about, but it seems to have changed the spike protein enough that it is not as effective with the vaccines. That's a little scary because right as we're ramping up vaccines, there's this possibility that our vaccines are less effective. I think what this is going to entail is that we might have to get boosters for these variants. But the reason it is so important to get these vaccines, even though that they might be less effective, is the faster we can shut down the spread of COVID, the less likely it is going to mutate into new variations that spread more quickly or evade our vaccine. So this is a very important thing. I know I'm drilling to death about the vaccine, but I really truly feel like this is our way out of this pandemic. So those are the two things I forgot to mention those, but anyway. So quick aside for those that are not interested, you can click out, but for those that are wondering where I was, so I had a lot of stuff go on at the end of the year. COVID was ramping up. I had this lofty goal to get through a lot of videos. I had all this stuff planned out. I was like motivated. I was going to live a new life, me and everything. And I was giving up my medical directorship. I had been the medical director at my hospital for 4 years. And January hit, and the first day was horrible. I almost got in a car accident. I'm okay. My car was fine, but it was like one of these things where it was like the first day of the year was terrible. And then I had my vaccine, the second dose, which kind of knocked me on my butt. And I was working nights for the month of January, the entire month. And I love nights. I used to be a nocturnist back in the day, but I picked up a lot of hours. I picked up a good 20 to 30 hours more than I normally work to offset the fact that I wasn't a medical director anymore, which was not a very wise idea because I was still doing some transition type meetings to help the new person take over from my old position. And so I just felt exhausted. And then halfway through the month, my dad had a heart attack and he's okay, but that kind of derailed me. I had some videos taped up. In fact, I need to edit them and I'm still going to put them up. I had a mega unboxing, 2 videos, and I had a whole planned out series. I'm going to do a medical series on different things to kind of branch out the channel. And everything got put on a hold because of family health issues. So my dad got ill, dealt with that, had to go back and work a huge string. And then I just felt exhausted. And I realized you guys would still be here for me when I'm ready, and I needed to take a little break. And that's why I took a month off, because I knew for my mental health, for my children, for everything, I needed to just take a little break. And the one thing that had to give, unfortunately, was the videos in this case. I'm hoping this next month I am not on nights after the next few days, and I will have a much more open schedule, a much better hour on my schedule. I didn't overbook myself the next few months. I have a family trip planned. I have things that I'm looking forward to. And so I do want to get back into it and a more regular uploading schedule. I know that there's a FabFitFun sale going on right now and customization. I'm going to try to do a video for that this week. But that's what happened. I just had to take a break, and I just had to, get sleep, spend time with my family. And like I said, January was a tough month between work being just terrible because of COVID, family health issues and all of that. I just had to take a break. So things are better. I feel better and I think I'll be around much more, but I just wanted to update you guys on that. And like I said, I had been promising a COVID video for a while, so I thought this would be a great way to kind of go back. But yeah, this week, look out for a FabFitFun video, and then I have a mega unboxing from last month. I have a 2-part video that I'll put up, so if it seems a little dated, because I think I videoed it pretty close or around the inauguration. It was like mid-month. So if it seems like, wow, that's really off and dated, I want to put that video up, regardless that it was done a little bit late. I don't think you guys will mind, but I'm going to put all that stuff up. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. And like I said, you have any questions, concerns, things, feel free, leave comments down below. Thanks, guys. Bye.